I'm Jang-Han for Heart to Heart. The 1971 United Nations Charter stipulates that a mentally disabled person has the same rights to education, vocational training, and employment. Well, my guest today has spent close to 50 years in Korea working to promote these rights for the mentally disabled. Please welcome the director of the Emmaus Welfare Center in Gwangju, Jeolla Province, Father Noel O'Neill. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Your Korean name is actually Noel.
That's right.
The Noel would be
my
your
Christian name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where do you get the last name from?
Chun.
Mm-hmm. Chun.
Oh, when I came to Korea at that time, there was no language school, so we just had a high school graduate who had some knowledge of English. So we spent about 3 or 4 months learning Korean from her, and of course then the question of getting a Korean name. So she would look around, and I suppose it was more of a joke, because when we'd be having salad, you'd always have a dressing, and there was a dressing. The only dressing around that time was 1,000 islands. So I suppose I was only always asking for 1,000 islands, and she gave me the name.
The thousand. Chun. I see. That's where you got the last name. So it's been with you for a long time then.
Yeah, well, you don't get rid of a name easily.
Right. And now you are currently the director of the Emmaus Welfare Center.
That's right, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that place. It's for the mentally disabled.
Yes,
people
the mentally disabled, the intellectually disabled. We in Gwangju, we have more or less a continuum of services, from preschool, for children, and then we have a vocational center where we train those who have graduated from one of the special schools for people with special needs, and according to their ability, we try to get some of them into open employment, working with ordinary people in factories. So we'd have about 100 working in ordinary factories with ordinary people, and then people who are not just that capable of going, we have our own little factory where they make candles and industry.
I see.
So then there's another group who would not be able to produce as good as them, so they're in what we call a shelter workshop. And then there are people who cannot produce all. You try to just stimulate them, and have relaxation rooms and that, so they're in an activity center. So all these different centers, they're with different parts of the city. They're not all congregated in one situation, to be just so diverse in the city.
Well, let's talk about some of the programs that you run at the Emmaus Center. The programs you've initiated there, I believe, are regarded as being quite experimental in some ways, pioneering in other ways. The group home program in particular, what is that about?
Oh, the group home. Well, I suppose you would describe a group home as a group of intellectually disabled people, a family size, 4 or 5 people living in an ordinary house or an apartment.
On their own?
In the local community, which is adjacent to the ordinary facilities like the supermarket, the post office, the bank, the hairdresser, the bowling alley, and the health club, so that it's within reach of them, so that they're living in the local community, not segregated out in the mountains. So I was the first to initiate that 3 or 4 years ago.
And that works out well?
Oh yes, I mean, most people, you probably live in an ordinary home in an apartment, not out in the hills.
Right.
So that's where ordinary people live. So disabled people too, that's where they should be living.
And the program called deinstitutionalization, that also is along the same lines then?
Oh yeah, well that's a very, there's big numbers of people, not only disabled people, but others as well, who are institutionalized here in all over the country. And actually it's a question of human rights, because many of those people, if were given the opportunity, could be living outside and working. It's actually costing the government to keep them in there, cost them about 1,000 man for the year. But and it's a question of human rights. And as yet, both the government and religious groups, they do not realize that the injustice being done to so many of these underprivileged people. So about 3 or 4, just at the millennium, you know, when there's people all say, what should we do? So I approached the city office in Gwangju, and I said that we would like if we could take small groups, you know, 5 or 6 people from the institution that was run by the city office, and have them in a group home and see how will they progress. So the city office, they were anxious too to do something for the millennium. So they said, right, if you provide the house, we'll provide the maintenance for these people. So we got permission, and 6 people came out from the institution. One was 20 years there, and now the 4 of the 6 are working employment and making about $700 or $800 a month. So
they're adjusting well.
they're adjusting well. So the opportunity, but you just say, what about the others who are still there? And I mean, it's a question of justice. So I'd like if religious groups and others who talk about justice and peace to think of those underprivileged people to try to liberate them, shall we say.
So you want to continue persuading,
given the
persuading the
opportunity.
city officials.
Yeah,
I see. And you also run a children's home.
Oh yes, the children would be for, shall we say, early intervention, you know, preschool, you know, from the age maybe 1, 2 to the age of 5. You know, that's the most important time for development, you know, in a child's years. So we have this child center, and I must say that here in Korea, you know, for the government, the staff is a ratio of 4 children to 1 teacher, and also there is a specialist language therapist. So in very few countries, my country, in Ireland, and I'm sure in America, they would not have as good a service.
Oh, I see.
That is one of the best services that Korea has, the preschool. You know, the ratio of teachers to the children, disabled child.
Can that make a difference to the children's lives then later on?
Oh, sure, every early development in any child, even a normal child. I mean, that's one of the troubles, I suppose, with a lot of parents now out working, you know, that they're not given they leave their child to a grandmother or something like that, so there's very little stimulation. So that's why we have a lot of difficulty with, you know, even normal children. So you can imagine that if a disabled child doesn't get a lot of stimulation in their early years, that they'll have, you know, quite difficulty later in development. So any chance is to get them early. That's why early intervention. And it's good to see that the government sees that and putting, you know, giving sufficient finances to have this program running.
And as you mentioned earlier, the people at Emmaus Center, they not only receive vocational training, but some of them are actually working, producing products of good quality too, I must say.
Of good quality, yes. I mean, Emmaus Industries, they have candle making and also toilet paper. But the candle making, I think it was last year or the year before, that the KS, you know, the Korean standard, which is a very strict, you know, evaluation, you know, carried out. But they were the first in Korea of candle making. I guess gets that recognition. So they make all sorts of. I'm sorry I didn't bring some along with me today, but it's quite, you know, quite good, and they're all getting the minimum wage.
So they're all working in factories.
All in this factory, yeah.
I see. Are they enjoying it?
Well, I mean, everyone, what we call it, everyone who works enjoys work so that you have money to go off and play afterwards.
Sure, right. They get paid.
You know,
they make money.
Yourself, a self-fulfillment to be able to work.
And some of the other unusual programs that you've tried out is, of course, a program whereby you use gardening to treat mentally disabled people.
Horticulture, yeah.
Horticulture. Okay.
Yeah. Well, of course, before Freud or psychiatric science ever became on the scene, gardening was always recognized as a therapeutic tool for mentally ill people, you know. Even for ourselves, normal people, to go to a well-kept garden or botanic gardens, you know, that that self of being, you know, well-being that you've experienced. So you can imagine for mentally ill people that emotionally it's a very soothing experience. And then to be touching clay and humus and that sense of touch and creation, to see it put in a little seedling and then they see that grow and blossom into a flower, your sense of a creativity. And then your whole senses, like your smell, you know, the smell from the flowers, and I said that then the touching, and then the sight, the different colors of the flowers, you know, so all your senses also becoming stimulated, you know. So it's a very, and even I found that we had one person who was very aggressive, you know, so we couldn't find anything really, any of the workshops suited. So he was in the horticultural program, and he used to be cutting the hedges and that. So this helped to take out some of the aggressiveness in him. So gradually he got calmer and calmer. You know? Yeah.
I see. So
oh yeah, it has a very soothing effect.
it does have therapeutic.
And some of their local women too, who probably have trouble with their husbands or trouble at home, they come in just to work around as well.
Just to vent it all out.
Yes, rather than on their husbands. You know, it's good just to use it to clay the earth. Yeah.
I understand that you also have a soccer team that is quite competitive.
Oh yeah, we
took part in an international competition.
Yeah, well, of course, Korea, World Cup, ever since the World Cup, you know, everyone was, that month was one of the greatest of the years that I spent in Korea, that month. You know, when you had old women, grandmothers talking about they must rush home to watch Korea playing, you know. So, I mean, it was a great event for Korea and for the people, you know. And I suppose that's when we, down in Gwangju, our people, we had our red shirts and we started our Super 11, as we called it. So then there's what you call the Special Olympics. It was started by the Kennedy Foundation, President Kennedy of America. They had one of their members of their family was an intellectually disabled person. So about 40 years ago, they started these games in America. So every 4 years they have been just in America. And the first time out of America was in Ireland in 2002.
Your home country.
So my home country. And as yet here in Korea, Special Olympics Committee is not anyway stable, it's not organized well. So between one thing and another, we ended up as going to represent Korea. And then some of the people who work in our factory, they said they'd go along as well, so they paid their own rent. The athletes, the footballers, they were the government paid for them, but we had about 8 or 9 of our followers, people who, from their own savings, they went over there as well, and they had a ball.
Well, we do have video footage of the Emmaus team going all the way to Ireland to participate in the Special Olympics. Let's have a look.
Yeah, they were, they were.
All wearing red jerseys.
The red jerseys, you know, and the member when we, but the soccer team, are 70,000, and all our team, all dressed up in ties and suits, and to be welcomed by Nelson Mandela, the former president of South Africa, Muhammad Ali, who's the famous boxer, all these president of Ireland, or people that met the president of Ireland as well. You know, so they had it was great experience.
How did the team do?
Well, Special Olympics, unlike our World Olympics, it's the kind of grade people according to their ability. So you're into a group of your standard. So that's where the competition. We were in the group of our standard. So our people, we got a silver medal.
Silver medal.
So they were delighted with that.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, they were the nicest. Yeah.
So these programs, all of the programs that you run at the MLS Center, how do you believe these programs affect or change the lives of mentally disabled people?
Oh, they change the lives. Well, they see most ordinary people, we all need stimulation, and we need the normal facilities that normal people see most is we learn from others. To see if you never see anybody, if you never ride a bus, you never ride a subway, well, you've lost an experience that you can speak about it, but it doesn't mean anything. So our people, through the use of the normal facilities that normal people, non-handicapped people use, like the health club, like and going to see with the ordinary neighbours and or young girls that go on the play, and they're just every bit as good at the aerobics and something like that, and same with dancing and online skating, all these programs that normally be bowling, all go out and they they learn how to interact with the other people. You can talk in the classroom about etiquette and how to behave, but to actually experience this and see others behaving, that's how you learn. And that's how most of ever learn, sitting beside our mothers, and that's where we learn how to behave and our manners and etiquette.
You came to Korea back in 1957, so it's been 47 years in Korea.
I was a young man then.
Oh, yes, you were a very young man. Well, how did you end up coming to Korea in the first place?
Oh, well, I suppose, I can always remember when I was about 4 or 5 and my mother bringing me to the local church hall where they were showing a still movie of a missionary out in Africa, and he was working with people with Hansen's disease, leprosy. So I remember looking at that, and I was only 4 or 5, and I can still remember how I was impressed, and they left a very lasting impression on me. That doing something for others, that's what life, the value of life, a worthwhile value. So then, when I finished high school, I was thinking of going to Africa to do something. And an event happened of, one of family friends of ours, their son had gone to Korea in 1949 as a missionary, and he was a missionary priest down in Mokpo, down in Jeollado. And when the Korean War broke out in June, the communists came down to Mokpo in July, and this friend of our family friend, and 2 other priests were taken up by the communists to Daejeon, and they were lost their lives there in Daejeon. So he was martyred. That was in 1950. So you should say I made a U-turn. Instead of going to Africa, I ended. I said I'll go to a college that sends missionaries to Korea.
I see. And you've been here ever since.
I've been here ever since.
And how times have changed since then, huh?
Oh, times have changed in every way.
So you've basically witnessed the entire post-war history of Korea.
Post-war, yes, yeah. We've seen Korea from rags to riches.
And you started turning your eyes towards the mentally disabled people when?
Oh, it was probably While I was a pastor, you know, I was pastor in Gwangju City, and while there, I got involved in, there was an institution, you know, that time things were pretty rough, and you know, where there was an institution with about 600 people, you know, of all illnesses, mentally disabled and physically disabled, alcoholics, TB patients, old people, orphans, all congregated in one place. So with the volunteers from the church, we used to go out there once a week. So from my visitation, I usually got to know the mentally disabled, because they always met you with their welcome open arms and their smile, you know. So, and compared to the others, they weren't able to speak up for their rights, you know. They needed an advocate to speak for them. So then that's where I began to feel the call to help. But then one day, when I was back in my rectory in the church, they got a phone call from one volunteer to say that a 19-year-old from the institution, mentally disabled person, that she was dying in the hospital. So she said for me to come over, so I rushed over to the hospital, and I went in. There, Yoha was her name, and she, you know, the smile and the blue eyes, and she looked at me and she just said, "Kamsamnida," you know, thank you. And then she died. And she died right there. And the hospital authorities, because she had nobody belonged to her, they've said, well, we'll take care of the funeral, but we will use the corpse as research. So I said, no, I said, if Yo has not received a decent life while she lived, at least now she'll be respected in her death. So we had a funeral for her, and we had put up her grave and tombstone. And on this tombstone, I wrote, "Will you forgive me? Will you forgive the church? Will you forgive society? For too long, we have ignored you." So every year I used to go with other people who lived in the institution with her, and it's on the Chuseok and the Sun, I go to the grave, pay respects. So I suppose that's for the call. So in 1981, the year, International Year of the Disabled, that's when
I see, that's when it all
when
started.
one of the, from the institution, and a volunteer myself, we moved in. It was the first group home in Korea in 1981, into an ordinary house. Yeah.
Although your home country is Ireland,
Yeah,
Korea has been your home for the
Yes,
last
yeah,
47
that's right.
years. And you even celebrated your 60th birthday here, which is a very big event in one's life in Korea, right?
Yes, well, not nowadays. You know, at that time, nowadays it's the 70s,
Right,
because
the
people are
average
living
lifespan,
longer.
right.
Huh?
But you had a big 60th
Well, I
birthday
mean, just
bash.
for our own family, the disabled people who were all around Emmaus, there was no outsiders, except that's my nephew. He came over for his
from
college.
Ireland,
yeah,
I see.
yeah.
And those are all your children, then?
They're all
Children
from
and
the staff.
grandchildren.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
You have a huge family here.
Oh, good family. That's it's hard to get away from them.
What would you like to? Is there anything you would like to say to ordinary healthy people about how they should regard or think about the mentally disabled people's
Well, I
issues?
suppose shall we say the ideal society would be where nobody is so rich that they have nothing to receive, or nobody is so poor that they have nothing to give.
Nothing to give.
And I think that or intellectually disabled people, that they have a lot to give to our society. That I look on them as the prophetic voice of today. There's I don't know whether you visited the Biennale down in Gwangju. It is every 2 years. But the art exhibition in
Right,
industrial
Biennale,
art. But a Japanese artist there, he has a group of on the floor robots they're all businessmen with their neckties and all suits, and they're all moving around. There's Japanese, Asians and Americans and Europeans, and they all have little revolvers, and they're all centering buildings, New York, Manhattan, and the other one then is the oil fields. And what is all about? Competition. So this is the society that we so-called developed countries have made a very competitive society, a stressful society. So people, we welcome the person who produces the success, the number one, the gold medalist, but we have no time for the failure. I suppose that's why we have our suicides rate. I believe it's 30 a day now in Korea, and they're from presidents of universities to high.
Stress and competition.
Mentally disabled people are saying to us, make room for the failures. We're not successful, we don't produce, we won't shake your stock market, your GNP, but make room for the failures. We cannot all go into Seoul University, we cannot all become gold medalists, so become a more welcoming society, a caring society.
I think that's an important message to all of us. I thank you very much for coming on the program, telling us, or delivering that wonderful message to our viewers as well. And I wish you the best of luck with the Emmaus Center.
Right. Thank you very much.
Now, throughout the show, you might have noticed that instead of referring to these people as mentally disabled, Father Noel refers to them as intellectually disabled. And that is one way, a small way, but it is one way that we can make room for the failures in the society as well. That's it for this edition of Heart to Heart. I'll be back with more next time.